All right, welcome. What you see here is Hyper-V Manager. If we go to Help and About Hyper-V Manager, you're going to see right here, this is version 10.0.26.100.1882, and the year currently is 2025. The reason I share that information with you is so that in the future, if this, for whatever reason, has changed and you are using or following along with this tutorial, I want you to be able to figure out what the changes are between the version I'm using and your version in case this is never updated to whatever version you end up using. So Hyper-V is deceptively simple. There's a lot of tools here, but it is actually very simple for us to get started and to create a virtual machine. So for me, I'm going to go Hyper-V Manager. We're going to go to Legion Go. That's the host name for my system. So whatever your system's host name is, you're going to see that right here. And then we have two choices. If you have the Actions menu available over here to the right, you can follow along here. Or, if necessary, you can go to Action, and then we can come down here to Quick Create. So either Quick Create is going to do the exact same thing. Once we click Quick Create, it's going to open the Create Virtual Machine window. For my purposes here, and for your purposes, we're going to go to Local Installation Source. We're going to uncheck this virtual machine will run Windows because we're not going to be running Windows. We're going to run FreeBSD. And we're going to choose Change Installation Source. From there, I'm going to go to Downloads and choose FreeBSD. I'll hit Open. Under Options, I'm going to click the down arrow, and then here under Name, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to choose a name. What I like to do is I like to name my virtual machines based off of the operating system that I'm running, the version of that operating system that I'm running, followed by a thematic piece. So for this, I'm going to choose class since I'm teaching a class. So you can see here, I have FreeBSD 14.2-class. The default switch will be fine. And then we're going to click Create Virtual Machine. Once you've done that, we can now click Connect, and it's going to create a little window here that we can use. Once we've launched the window, you're going to see something similar to this. It'll say welcome to FreeBSD, and then it will ask you a series of questions here. There is a countdown that will begin. Go ahead and just hit the space key. If you tap the space key one time, then it will interrupt the boot and you will be sitting right here at this screen. So now we have a few choices. We can use the boot installer. We can boot into single user mode. We can escape to a loader prompt. We can reboot the machine. And then we have video. There are also a couple of options that include kernel and boot options, but we don't really need any of this. For our purposes, we're just going to press the number 1. The next window that you'll see, it will say welcome to FreeBSD. Would you like to begin an installation or use the live system? So we have a couple of choices, and you can move between those choices using the arrow keys on your keyboard. I'm going to hit Enter above Install. So Install is highlighted. We'll hit Enter. And then for me, I speak United States English, and my keyboard is in United States English. So I will scroll down until we highlight United States of America, and I will hit the space key. And upon doing so, it will ask me, would you like to test US keyboard key map? I don't need to test it. I know that it's going to work. So I'm going to choose Continue with US keyboard key map. If you are concerned or you are wondering if your keyboard is going to function, feel free to run the test. It will just ask you to type in characters, and then you can hit OK. And I know that it is working, so I'm going to choose Continue with US keyboard map. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a host name. So I'm going to say FreeBSD-VM-class. And that's going to be my host name. If you have specific host names that you have to use, then I would tell you to put that in here. For my purposes, I run everything when I'm doing anything related to setting host names. I like to have a specific pattern, so I'm using the operating system, which is FreeBSD. I'm using VM because it is a virtual machine, and then I'm using class because the machine is class. So I'm going to hit enter, and now we can see we have some options here. Do we need base system debugging? Well, for what we're going to be doing here, I'm going to choose yes. I'm going to choose yes. Again, this is just hitting the space key for lib32 debug and lib32. And then the final piece here is I'm going to choose system source tree, and I'm going to hit enter for OK. We're going to ignore ports for now, and I will show you why. And that's because we're going to use PKG or package. So we hit OK. It says some installation files were not found on the boot volume. That's because I'm using a boot-only CD for creating this machine. So we will hit OK. It's going to ask me which one of these is my Hyper-V network interface. I'm going to hit OK. And then it's going to ask, do I want to set up IPv4? I am running DHCP on my router, so I'm going to choose yes. And it's going to ask, would you like to use DHCP? I'm going to say yes. And it's going to ask if I would like to configure IPv6 for this interface. For the purpose of what we're doing here, I'm going to choose no. And then it's going to ask me what IPv4 DNS I would like to use. I'm going to go down here to our second line, and I'm going to type in 8.8.8.8. So now that gives me two. So I have mshome.net. I have IPv4 DNS, which is being provided by our Hyper-V. And then we have IPv4 DNS, which is the one that I'm giving it from outside. And that's just a Google one. If you want to use any other DNS, feel free to do so. You can edit this essentially any way you'd like. But if you're new and you're new to operating systems, you're new to Unix, you might not even know what DNS is yet, this would be a safe default. And particularly doing what we're doing, you're not going to be revealing a lot of information to Google that is of concern, as long as you're not using the machine for anything beyond what we're going to be doing in the tutorials. So I'll hit OK. And then now it's going to ask, how do we want to set up our disk? FreeBSD is amazing because it uses something called ZFS. ZFS is a very powerful method for handling hard disks. So we're going to choose Auto ZFS. And then right here, we have a lot of items that we could potentially change if we wanted to, but we're not going to. Again, this is just making it as easy as possible, so we're going to proceed with installation. We're not going to mirror the swap, we're not going to encrypt the swap, we're not going to encrypt the disks, and we're not going to worry anything about our partition scheme or anything like that. We're just going to proceed with installation, and we're going to choose Stripe No Redundancy. In the event that you were using this live and you had, let's say, 2 hard disks, then you could do something like mirror. And so you could mirror the 2 disks so that you always had a safety net. You can do different levels of RAID. And then for our purposes, we're doing no redundancy. So we're just going to stripe. We're going to stripe across the disks. And then in the future, if we start the process of messing with ZFS and making additional drives and things like that, then we'll also work through RAID so that you can see how that is done. So we'll hit OK. And then don't hit OK yet because we haven't selected this disk. We're going to hit the space bar, and now we can hit OK. And it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to destroy this disk? This is the disk that was automatically made by Windows inside of Hyper-V. And so by destroying the disk, all it's doing is it is not going to delete anything, it's not going to destroy anything, it's not going to break your computer or anything like that. All it's doing is it's taking that virtualized disk and it's going to clear that disk and then allow you to start installing over the top of it. So it's just treating it just like it is a new hard drive, as opposed to you putting anything on your local machine at risk. Making this virtual machine, if you've been following along from beginning to end, is perfectly safe. Now, if you go in and you start mounting drives and you start making major changes, then obviously you can break things. We could theoretically mount our boot drive directly to this machine, and then we could go in and we could delete things, we could clear it, we could do all kinds of behaviors that would be very negative. But if you're following along and you're doing exactly what I'm doing, those are not concerns that you have to worry yourself with right now. So we'll hit yes. And now it's going to ask, where do we want to go to get all of the items that we need to download? And so for me, I normally just choose main site, which is ftp.freebsd.org. So we'll hit OK. And this is plenty fast for somebody who's here within the United States. And it's going to start the process of fetching the entire distribution. FreeBSD itself is relatively small, particularly when in comparison to modern operating systems. If you were to look at a brand new copy of Windows, it could be 20, 30 gigabytes to install a copy of Windows. FreeBSD is going to be significantly smaller. So we've already downloaded base.txz. It's going to download the kernel. It's going to download a couple of more items because remember, we chose to do base debug, we chose kernel debug, and we chose lib32 debug. And the reason we chose these items, in a real installation typically wouldn't choose these items, but the reason why we chose those items is because we're actually going to sit down and we might play with some of these things. We may make some changes to the kernel. We might want to do a little bit of debugging. So having access to all of these items as we're exploring the operating system is more important for you as somebody who wants to be educated about these tools than it would be for somebody who's trying to set up a system that they're going to use in production. So if this was a production system, I would get rid of all the debug. I wouldn't want those items unless I absolutely necessarily needed them, simply because of space constraints, but also because when you start adding the ability to debug a system, what you're also introducing is software that's going to be pre-installed that somebody like a bad guy might potentially be able to use. And so what we don't want to do is leave tools for that bad guy to be able to come in behind us and say, yes, I can connect to processes. Yes, now that I can find these PIDs, I'm going to take a look and I'm going to read the memory of what these processes are doing so I can get access to all of the items that are inside of this system. What we want to do is we want to reduce the chance that somebody following in our footsteps could cause harm to the system. So we'll let this finish. It does not take very long. This is essentially real time, and you're going to see the longest pieces are going to be the base debug and potentially some of the kernel debug pieces, because it is going out, it's downloaded items, and now it has to extract all of those items. And then once they are done and they're on the system, the final piece that we're going to do before we do anything else is we're going to set up something called PKG. And PKG is a password manager. So here we can add our root password. I like to do test 01 and then test 01. Oh no, I just told you what my password is. This isn't a big deal. This isn't going to be out on the internet where somebody can connect to it. This is for educational purposes, and this system is going to be treated as such. So when you put in your password, put in something that is relatively easy for you to remember. And I'll also show you here in a moment exactly where we can go within the system so that you can write down the password that you chose so that we can keep that information for later. So I'm going to choose America, north-south. I'm going to go a little bit further down to United States of America. That'll be item number 49. And then I need to figure out where I'm at. And it will ask you, does your time zone abbreviation look reasonable? I'm going to choose yes. It's going to ask me to set the date. That is today's date. Is that today's time? And now it's going to ask what are some of the services that we would like? I'm going to say SSHD. I do want that running. We are going to be working with that. And if you were installing this system in, let's say, a data center, you would want SSHD so that you can connect to the system later. MouseD, we want PS2 mouse pointer support on the console. And then NTPD, we would like that. And then NTPD sync on start, we can do that. And then PowerD, I'm going to leave off. I'm not worried about CPU frequency being dynamically adjusted. I would prefer the system to just run at the level that it is supposed to. Now, if you were installing this on, let's say, a laptop, that may be much more important. But this is just being placed inside a host of servers. So we'll hit OK. And now it's going to ask us about system hardening. There are a lot of pros, a lot of cons to making choices here within the system hardening section. You can hide user IDs that are being run as other users. We can hide processes. We could hide jails. We can disable process debugging facilities for unprivileged users. There's a lot of choices here. If you were going to use this in a production environment, especially a production environment where more than one user might potentially use this system, then you might want to hide UIDs, hide GIDs, hide jails. We want to disable reading the kernel message buffer, the process debug. We may want to enable random PID. We're going to clean or clear the temp file system on system startup. We're going to disable syslogd. We're going to enable console password prompt. And then we're going to disallow dtrace destructive mode. There's a bunch of things that we could do here. For what we're going to do here, what I would like to turn on is random PID, and I would like clear TMP. These two right here are the two that you're going to want to use. We're going to randomize the PID of newly created processes. All this means is every time we start a process on the system, it's going to assign a random PID. And clear temp just means when the system boots up, anything that was inside of /TMP is cleared out. So we would like those two behaviors. And then we'll hit enter for OK. It will let us know we don't have any firmware to install. So it's going to continue. And then it's going to ask, would we like to add a user to the installed system? And we're going to choose yes. Username. We will select. You can put a full name if you would like. I'm going to use my username here for YouTube. UID, we can leave it empty. We'll allow it to select our UID. Our login group, this is fine. We're not going to invite into other groups right now. We are going to make some changes, including installing something called sudo later. So we'll hit enter. Login class can be default, that's fine. Shell, we're going to leave it at SH. Later, we're going to install something called ZSH, ZSH, Zulu, Sierra Hotel. That'll be one of the alternative shells that we're going to install inside the system. Home directory will be home, Aaron J. That's fine. Home directory permissions, we'll leave those empty. Do we want to enable ZFS encryption for this user? I'm going to choose no, because we are going to be doing some moving around in here. Maybe later we can enable ZFS encryption, but right now we don't need it. Will we use a password? Yes. Will we use an empty password? No. Random password? No. And then I'm going to use the same exact password that I used for the root account here. Now, that's a bad practice. However, this is for learning. This is for education. So we're going to choose to accept a bad practice for the purposes of simplicity while learning. But I want you to remember that if you decide that you're going to set one of these systems up in the future for actual usage, then you want to keep your root password separate and different from your individual user password. Do we want to lock out account after creation? The answer is no. It's going to ask me to review everything. I'm going to choose yes, which is the default, so we just hit enter. It's going to ask me, do I need to add another user? I'm going to choose no. And now we are on the final configuration, and this is very important because what we want to do is we want to come down here to handbook. We're going to hit enter. We're going to make sure that English is selected, particularly if English is your language. If it is not your language and you're following along, pick the language that you think is appropriate for your needs, and then we're going to hit OK. You're going to see that it's going to bootstrap PKG. It's going to pull all the items down that we need. It's going to install about 105 megabytes worth of data. And now we can take a look and we can see that handbook is done. Time zone was done. System hardening has been done. Services, network, hostname, root password, adding users. We are able to now hit exit. So we're going to hit exit. It's going to ask you, would you like to open a shell? Our choice is going to be no. And then now we can choose to reboot, shutdown, or live system. What we want to do is we want to go to shutdown, hit enter. And there's a reason we're doing this, and I will show you in a moment. And this is one of the more important parts of being able to work with Hyper-V, as well as one of the most important parts of virtualization. So now that we have done that, what we want to do is we're going to come right back here and we're going to right click on our new virtual machine and we're going to click on checkpoint. This is an item that we can do. What we want to do is we want to go checkpoint, and we have created a brand new checkpoint as of right now for this FreeBSD machine. So once we connect to the FreeBSD machine, we don't have to worry about the fact that if we run a command and we mess something up and it's broken, or we decide to try to install something, or we want to explore outside of the tutorial itself, that's all okay. We can absolutely do that because we're not going to break anything. Because if we do something, you can roll it back. Think of this like a save state in video games or a checkpoint in a video game, right? Hence the name checkpoint. Think about it like you are going and you are making a save before you fight the boss, right? And so no matter how many times you lose at the boss, the only thing that happens is you go back to that save point and then you can start over from there. So we can make as many checkpoints as we'd like, with the real and only limiting factor here being the fact that once we make these checkpoints, then we are taking up a little bit of hard drive space. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to right click, choose settings. That will open this window. And then we want to come down here to name. And you can see here there is a section where we can add or record notes about our virtual machine. So I'm going to add the word root followed by a full stop colon, and then I'm going to put in my silly little test01 password, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing for my user, and I'm going to hit apply. And the only reason I did this is because I don't know how many times I have had students send me a message and let me know, hey, I can't remember my username and password. I chose something clever. I put something in that's completely different than what I normally use. And that right there will be a humongous gotcha for you. We don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want to use a new username and password, and we want to document it, and the easiest way to document it is to document it within the system. And now you can see down here, it is available to us. Now, remember, is this a good practice? Absolutely not. This is as bad as putting a sticky note on your monitor with a username and password on the sticky note. We don't want to do that. That's not how we want to do business. But for the purposes of creating something that we can learn in and that is educational, and as long as you're not using this system for anything that would require legitimate security beyond learning how to work with the system, this is totally fine. So you can remember, how do you get access to things? So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to come back to the virtual machine. We're going to click Start, and you will see the machine is going to load up, and we can press 1 if we would like to hurry it along. And now we are at our login screen right down here at the bottom. So we will need to type in root, and then we'll put in our password, and you will see we have now logged into the system, right? And we can see that it says welcome to FreeBSD. There are some links that are available to us, but this is entirely within the command line. This is not a graphical user interface, and that's okay. We're going to actually get some quality of life here in just a little bit. Improvements, that's what we want. We want quality of life improvements. We don't have those yet, but don't worry, things are going to get a little bit better as we work through things. So what is one of the first things that we need to do? Well, one of the first things that we should do is we should type in pkg right down here at the bottom, pkg, and then we're going to type in update and hit enter. And it's going to say all repositories are up to date. And if we were to type in pkg upgrade, you'll see all packages are up to date, everything is fine, all the integrity is 100%. This is a brand new system, it's pre-set up for you, everything's good to go. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to type in pkg, so that's Papa Kilo Golf, followed by install, and then we're going to type in sudo, so that is Sierra Uniform Delta Oscar, and hit enter. It's going to tell us there are some new packages that need to be installed. Would we like to do that? We're going to choose yes, and we're going to hit enter. And you'll see now that we have gone out, we downloaded a couple of packages, we installed those packages, none of those packages were conflicting, and they have all been installed into the system now. And this is really important because without sudo, your user, the one that we created earlier, would not be able to install any packages. Right now, we're listed as running under root. So we're going to want to type in exit, exit, hit enter, and it'll take you back to the login screen. You're going to type in the username that you created previously. So that's, for me, Aaron J. Hit enter. And then we'll put in our password. And now you can see here, it is giving us a lot of information. What do we have here information-wise? Well, some documents were installed with the system. If we want to change this login announcement, then we can see MOTD. And then we can see that ZFS is giving us a little bit of information, particularly about our pools. You might not know what a ZFS pool is yet, and you might not know anything about ZFS. That is okay. Later, we're going to potentially mess with some of our ZFS pools, and we might add or subtract a hard drive just to experiment with that a little bit. But at this time, this is totally fine. So we're going to want to type in sudo switch s, and I'm going to show you something that happens. So it's going to ask for our password, and we're going to put in our password, not our root password, just our password. And when we hit enter, it is going to say, hey, Aaron J is not in sudoers. So that is true. We're not in the sudoers file. But we can press exit. We can log back in as root. And now that we're in, we're going to type a single command, and that's going to be VISUDO. So Victor, India, Sierra, Uniform, Delta, Oscar. We're going to hit enter. And now we're in Vim. So hold shift and press G as in golf. It's going to take you to the bottom of the file. Now what you can do is you can take your arrow key and you can press up. And press up until you get here where it says root. Now I want you to press Y as in Yankee, followed by Y as in Yankee, and then I want you to press P as in Papa. And you're going to see what we have done is we have yanked the line and pasted a copy of that line. Now find the X key as in X-ray, and we're going to press it 1, 2, 3, 4. And so now we have gotten rid of the word root, and we're going to do something completely crazy. And it's going to be press I and then type in your username. And now hit escape twice. Once you hit escape twice, that will take you out of insert mode. I want you to hold shift and press a full stop colon. You will see that that shows up right there at the bottom. And we're going to type in W followed by Q. So Whiskey, Quebec. Hit enter. And what that has done is it has updated our sudoers file. And we have written our username into the sudoers file. And then we have written this to the hard drive and then exited. So now type in exit once more. Type in our username and then our password. And now sudo, so Sierra, Uniform, Delta, Oscar, dash or switch S as in Sierra. Hit enter. Type in your password. And you will see that it has changed to what is called a crunch. You might occasionally hear people refer to this as a hash mark, but this is a crunch. And that crunch symbol means that we can now run anything that we would like as root on this system. So let's try one more thing before we're done with this initial tutorial. Let's type in HTOP, so Hotel, Tango, Oscar, Papa, hit enter, and you will see htop is not found. So we're going to type in pkg install htop, hit enter. It's going to ask you, would we like to install htop? We're going to say yes, hit enter, and now try it again, htop, hit enter. And now you can run the command htop. So we can run commands, we can install packages. We have installed package, we have installed htop, and we have installed sudo. And then within vsudo, what we did was we added our user to the sudoers file, and then we can hit Q, type in the word clear, hit enter, and then type in exit, EXIT, and we are back to our user. And so if you'd like to double check, even though you can see your username right here in the left-hand side corner, what you can do is you can type in who am I, hit enter. So Whiskey, Hotel, Oscar, Alpha, Mike, India. And once you type in who am I and hit enter, what you will see is it will come back with your username, which is, for me, Aaron J. So we have a fully running copy of FreeBSD. We have the ability to install packages. We have a user that is within the sudoers file and has the ability to what is called sudo up or take over essentially all of the permissions that root has available to them. And in addition to all of that, we have installed a couple of packages and the system can now be used. So the next time we meet, what we're going to do is we're going to set up something called SSH, and we're going to SSH into this machine so that if at any time you want to be able to work with the machine with tools like copy and paste being available to you, this is going to be the best way to do it. It also exposes the system's file system, so we can use things like SSHFS, SFTP, and other tools for being able to transfer files. So once we get this set up and it's set up correctly, there's a lot of really cool, really powerful things that we'll be able to do with it that simplifies our life. So with all this done, thank you for following along. I hope that if you have any issues at all, that you send me a message and let me know what you see problem-wise so that I can try to give you some assistance. And I am definitely looking forward to the next time we get together so that we can add a couple of more tools and get this thing into a state in which you will be able to use it. And then from there, we'll also start working on learning about operating systems at a much lower level.